The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by Rams on Demand, Seat Giant, Vibe 305, and RWO, Rams World Order. Now enjoy the show.
Down the middle, to the end zone, caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows.
It picks. Nickel Roby Coleman
throws. End zone caught, touchdown, Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. LaMarcus Joyner returns to the lineup with an interception in London. 35-30. Robert Woods, first down 20. 10-5. Touchdown. LA. No, it's Goff who keeps it. And Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Met immediately and sacked. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack. He's decked by Ebu Khan. Picked off. Marcus Peters strutting his stuff. Mark Barron the last 4 weeks has been a Pro Bowler. He picked off Dak Prescott into Seattle territory, into the clear. 30, 20, Farrell Cooper 10. Farrell Cooper at the goal line. Cousins sacked. Ndamukong Suh. Of all the guys, it's the rookie John Franklin Myers who knocks it out of Cousins' right hand. Todd Gurley, 20, 10, Gurley for MVP! Touchdown LA!
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It's episode 164, and I'm joined here by my buddy Alexis Kraft. Alongside us is the creator of HornsupGFX. How we doing, guys? Thank you, Horns Up, for joining the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. We're excited to talk to you and hear a little bit of your story.
Yeah, so originally when I started this page, this was about right around the time the Rams had just relocated to LA. And truth be told, to give a little glimpse, I'm actually a fan from St. Louis, just like Alexis is. And I was on the fence whether or not to continue my die-hard fandom, if you would say that way. I was either going to be like, I'm going to try to find a different team, or I'm just going to stick with who I've been rooting for since I was a little kid. And because I just love football so much, I couldn't just drop it. And I decided if I'm just going to root for the Rams, I'm just going to go and drop everything, and it's going to be completely a whole new level of diehard. And it got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to run a fan page because I have an expertise in Photoshop and I have an expertise in what I would say design in general. So it was just a component of different things that I just love doing, and it just kind of worked out the way it did. And it's evolved ever since until recently that I decided to, well, not necessarily decide, but for professional reasons, I had to give up my account. And at first I contemplated letting it go altogether, but from a Rams fan standpoint, I felt like at the end of the day, it probably should be given up to a very valuable or a very, very, I would say, a good enough account, I would say, to take over my account in order to keep it going, because Rams fans deserve that. So I didn't want the account to die. So there's a lot that happened in between, but I don't know where else to go with that. So.
Yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned, I am from St. Louis, and I, like you are, and I can appreciate that sentiment of when the Rams left myself. It was kind of this internal struggle of, oh man, do I just jump ship, or do I continue cheering for the team that I cheered for since I was born, essentially? I can appreciate that, and I understand, and it sounds like we both made the decision to stick with the Rams, even though it was tough at first. And so I guess something that I'm just kind of curious about is what the whole graphics idea. So when you first started out, were you intending to do Rams graphics, or were you just kind of not really sure, and how did you get into that?
Well, I had just graduated from college and got my bachelor's degree. And truth be told, I had not gotten into design whatsoever, and I did not know what I wanted to do with my professional career until I dove into the sports communications side of the industry, where that required proficiencies in Adobe Suites, which essentially makes graphics for promoting game days, promotes milestones, promotes marketing materials, sponsors, and all that. So I did not have any experience in any of that and I was actually kind of scared about it at first because I did not know how to use any of that. But once I actually got into it and learned the tools, I was like, wow, this is actually kind of something I really enjoy doing. And I just started coming up with random ideas. I have I would say a wild imagination about certain things. And then obviously, since I love the Rams so much, and that's what's actually would be my biggest motivation to do my best work. That's where I just spent my free time just creating that stuff. And it just worked well because at the time when I created, there was really one design account that represented the Rams that was around that did pretty good stuff at the time, and his name was at HornsupGFX. And I know the diehard Rams fans know who that is, but he stopped creating his content about right around the time Sean McVay actually got the job. And I think it's because he was too busy with his own professional career and he couldn't keep up with his account. It's not because he just lost all fandom. I know him too well for that. But with that being said, I found myself to be one of the more unique accounts that fans can follow because I was not just posting random stuff all the time. I was actually presenting ideas. I was presenting more composition, all that kind of stuff that would get people excited about the Rams, even if they were struggling. So that's how it kind of came out to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, it's really been really impressive what you've done. And, I know from experience because, just running Downtown Rams, I mean, I remember reaching out to you because you were the first one to get, Sammy Watkins in a Rams uniform and Robert Woods and do those jersey swaps. And quite honestly, and I had never seen anything like it. So I wasn't sure, if you created that yourself, but then I come to find that jersey swaps are kind of like, a thing that everyone really does, but you kind of gave me the idea of just that they existed. So I thought that was cool, but really I want to get your take on the fact that, what is it like to have your graphics kind of, passed along, like they're gold. I mean, on Facebook, different groups on there, and you have people, passing around your graphics. And then, of course, Bleacher Report would repost your graphics. So what is it, how is something like that? And did that, was that overwhelming? Was that, awesome? Like, what were your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I would say, first of all, I appreciate everything you just said. As far as the jersey swap things goes, I was very excited to be able to do those kind of things. I knew a lot of the Rams fan pages weren't doing it, but I have seen before that I was inspired by a lot of other designers who were already starting to do that for NBA teams and some NFL teams. But NFL is a lot more difficult because of warping Rams helmets and changing the helmets and all that. That's probably the biggest difference between all the other sports. But as far as the passing along and reposting of my graphics and all that, at first it was amazing because I remember the first time something really big happened with that was when Akeem Ayers was on the team before Jeff Fisher was fired. He had taken one of my graphics and reposted, and I thought that was a big deal, and he also gave me credit for it as well. And I was like, wow, that's encouraging that players actually are looking at my stuff. And I had developed a relationship with Sameem Johnson as a result as well because he was asking for graphics as well for just promoting himself. And then a little bit once Nikhil Roby-Coleman got into LA as well, he was also enjoying my work and was asking to repost my work as well. So, all that's really cool and all. And it especially means a lot when the players appreciate it, but then also just the fans in general, because I think the Rams fans get a bad rap from a lot of other fan bases because they just relocated. But LA Ram fans are awesome when it comes to being encouraging of my work and also just enjoying the content in general. That's that's probably where I get the most satisfaction, because I had one specific fan base that was following my work, and there was a bunch of them that did follow my work. So that speaks a lot of volumes to me.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely created with HornsupGFX a really loyal following, and I think it became a place not only for people to see Rams graphics, but for people to basically interact with each other. Other Rams fans.
Right.
On your posts, people were always commenting, and there was dialogue and discussion that was being created, and that's always something special. It's a place I think that Rams fans can go to interact with people who share the same fandom as them and have the same favorite team, and to discuss kind of a ton of different things. So I think that that's really special, and something that we hope to continue to always encourage conversation among fans. And it really, it's truly awesome. And to kind of steer this discussion a bit, a lot of people, we kind of have been promoting that we were going to have you on the show. A lot of people, we got so many messages of just ask him what team he's doing, or why did he leave, or that type of thing. So if you wanted to just say a few words about that, and just so, to kind of answer people's questions of why you had a conflict of interest, and where you're going.
Just like you just said right there, before I gave the reins to my account to you guys, there is a conflict of interest, because I had gotten my master's degree a couple of years ago, and then I've been, I guess you would say, ascending in the branding world for sports. I start off with an internship with a very small D1 school down in Georgia, and that only lasted 7 months until I was recruited by the University of Kentucky to work for their athletics program. And then until recently, I was recruited to work for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And people are going to ask why I chose the Buccaneers and why I chose to jump onto that creative team. It's mainly because people in my world, as far as like the branding world is concerned, when it comes to visual content, to social media content, to video content, all of the above, it's led by a very good group of people in Tampa that a lot of other sports and a lot of teams do not have, or not necessarily don't have, but they're just not as cohesive as this team is, because they've stayed together for as long as they have. So that's what was very attractive, because I'm a very team-oriented person, and I get to bounce ideas off of really good and talented people. And the reason why I also was kind of battling with the fact of giving my name away is because, at the moment I start this week with the Bucs technically, but once I start with them, I can't really start talking about, Rams players or other players or even the Bucs players or anything like that. But I'm in a time period right now where I have not started with them yet, but I'm also on the verge of doing so. And as I will say right now, before I join them, I will always be a Rams fan. I mean, to my core, even with, whenever it comes to, the matchup this year, when the Bucs visit LA, which they're supposed to, it's got to be professional at this point. So, and I'm just very fortunate to be in the NFL in general, because it's been my goal since I was a kid that in some sort of capacity to reach the NFL stage and just work and make it seem like I'm just not even really doing a job. I'm just doing the work, but it's really not work. So, and it's in a very good environment, and it's also in Florida, which is even better. So,
yeah, no, I definitely hear you there. And, obviously you're going to hear from people because, there are haters on the internet. that's what it comes down to. And, of course you're going to hear, things like sellout and all that, but I'd like to, obviously commend you on it, because, it's not an easy step. Like you said, you've been a Rams fan your whole life, and, it's a professional thing. It's called being an adult. It's called going out and, getting your foot in the door, and you've already gotten your foot in the door, because now you're in the NFL, and, now you can really just build off that. So I do commend you for that. But, since you won't have a chance to really talk Rams anymore, I think it's time that we dive right into the Rams talk. Obviously, we see you. You're still following around, with us. So obviously we appreciate it. But what are your thoughts on the Rams? Because this is a hot topic right now, obviously. Rams have the 31st overall pick. Is there a player that you're really, looking at for that pick?
Specifically, to be honest with you, there's a wide range of players, but to be honest with you, I think we need to trade that pick because right now we have the next draft pick we'll have is the 4th, but we also got commissary picks. I just realized was it yesterday or the day before when they released that. But I think we have so many needs because our age on the offensive line is going to be critical moving forward. I know I'm a big fan of Brian Allen, but I also think he needs a lot of growth as well. So I like him there, but I still think we need a replacement for Whitworth. If no boom is not going to be the selling point for them. We also need someone potentially if we lose Saffold. We need someone if we potentially lose Sullivan to retirement if the Rams are not sold on Brian Allen himself, but I actually like Brian Allen. We need linebacker help, especially if we don't retain Dante Fowler, but I think that's also an anchor point that they're looking at. I know we're most likely going to cut Mark Barron, so we probably need linebacker help is the biggest thing. And depth at the O-line position, I would say, is probably our biggest needs. But then who knows what happens in the cornerback position once Talib and Peters' contracts are up. So it's a pretty wide range of different needs. Whenever people automatically assume, the Rams they just made the Super Bowl, they're not losing that many players that they really want to retain some of the key guys like Saffold and Fowler. What really do they need? But there's actually depth problems that we have. So
yeah, it's funny. A lot of the stuff that you just said is stuff that I agree with, and I've said on the show before. Starting with what you said about Noteboom, I don't think that Noteboom is the answer long term at that position. I know Jake disagrees with me. But I also agree that we're probably going to cut Mark Barron. I agree that we probably need to draft Whitworth's replacement. And also, again, we're not sure if Whitworth is even going to be playing anymore. He could certainly retire this offseason. But yeah, I think that the Rams actually do have a lot more needs than people realize, and they definitely have to address them this offseason if they want to be back in the Super Bowl next year.
Right, and I there was one play I will give Noteboom credit for, and I think it was against the Niners off that screen to Cooks, the initial throw to Cooks that would end up turning into a touchdown. But at the same time, I mean the Niners defense was also decimated at that point, so I'm not sure if you can really give him too much credit for that point. But other than that, I haven't heard about him actually making a huge contribution to the team. But that's just also me. There might be Rams fans that disagree with me on that. But other than that, that's the only real standout play that I can remember him actually making a contribution.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of Noteboom. I do think he could be a bookend left tackle for sure, and I also like his versatility to be able to kick in at guard. But I mean, we've been interviewing offensive linemen, and it's not going to stop. We're going to keep interviewing guys, and
right.
I think the Rams are really going to look in that crop, and not necessarily to start right away, but like you mentioned, obviously, the fact of the matter is Saffold's not a guarantee. It's really easy when things are going perfect to say that you're going to take a hometown discount. You saw him after, the Super Bowl loss, and he didn't seem as interested in the the hometown discount after the fact. So your mood will change, depending on the overall success. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just about Saffold. Is Whitworth going to stay or is he going to retire? Is Havenstein going to stay healthy? What's going on with right guard? And John Sullivan's older, and regardless, I think Brian Allen would be an upgrade over him. Albeit I'm not a huge Brian Allen fan, but I think John Sullivan was really the weak link there, and I think a lot of people would agree. But then I think
especially towards the end, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think you have to look at the defense, because quite honestly, Wade Phillips in year 3 is finally going to get his opportunity to install, a scheme likely in his last year, of his contract, to hand this thing over to Aubrey Pleasant. So, you're looking at guys where, if he doesn't believe that, say, Samson Ibukam is holding up his end of the bargain, and they really like, guys like Okoronkwo, and they feel like they just need one more guy, if they bring back Fowler, I could see them moving him to inside backer and using his athleticism and placing him next to Corey Littleton. I think there's a myriad of things that they could do this offseason. I think it's very interesting because had they won the Super Bowl, the talk wouldn't be this. People wouldn't care. They didn't win the Super Bowl. They just, they came that close. And I think it makes this offseason more crazier than ever because you have no idea. You've seen the Rams not be afraid to go out and make a bold move for Sammy Watkins or Brandon Cooks. What did they do now that they were that close to, tasting the Lombardi?
Right, and you kind of mentioned it earlier too. One of the bigger question marks of what's going to happen as far as free agency goes is if we do find a way to retain Ndamukong Suh, because he was very inconsistent during the regular season. He would show up in some plays, like I know he had a sack on Russell Wilson earlier in the year in Seattle, but then outside of that, I mean, his presence was noticeable, but at the same time, you see Aaron Donald in the interior was getting double teamed 70% of the time and still almost broke the sacks record. That's insane. But the thing that Sue kind of made up for was he did show up in the playoffs. And now he's going to be like, I did show up, and now I actually demand the money that I actually did earn this year, and I want the same money, maybe a longer term this time. But if there is a way the Rams are able to still retain him without too much of compensation being given towards him, but it's also respectful towards him, I would love to actually keep him. That's the bigger anchor point on the defense for me is that interior to keep that consistent and keep Aaron Donald at least somewhat, give him some sort of insurance almost. I've been wanting to ask both of you as well, because there's one question that I think a lot of people keep asking is like the common name that keeps thrown around as far as like a potential player to get cut is Mark Barron. Is there a dark horse to you guys that needs to get cut?
Well, I think I know Jake's answer to this. So Jake, do you want to say?
I don't even know my answer to this, but no.
I thought you were going to say Brockers.
It is Brockers, without a doubt. Saves $10 million. It's not going to be, easy to watch him go, especially, he's been there for so long. But, I think he might be a candidate to get cut and then brought back, because I think he is somebody that really doesn't want to play anywhere else. But once once you're cut, that kind of cuts deep. That hits you. They've tried in the past to bring guys back that have been cut. I know for a fact, and they didn't want to sign it. It's kind of like swallowing your pride. That's why anytime anyone mentions Chris Long, I can tell you right now, Chris Long would never re-sign with the Rams again. It would never happen.
No, and I know, and I remember making a post a little bit before actually you guys took over my page. Actually, it's probably around the Super Bowl, and I was just joking around, really, and I probably shouldn't have posted it anyway. Was like, we should, make a proposition or a proposal to the NFL. Hey, get the Eagles to release Chris Long, get him to sign with the Rams so he can get a chance at his third straight chip. And of course, a lot of Rams fans started saying, "Oh, this page is getting lame. What kind of idea is that? Why are you being like this and all this?" And I was like, "Oh, whoops." I'm just a big Chris Long fan, but
it's hard not.
I'm also with you at the same time. Though it's like, I think for both sides, I don't think it's the right fit anyway. Especially since Chris Long could be retiring right now, for all we know. I know he's been hinting at the idea he would like to have Le'Veon Bell on the Eagles, but he is not fully committed that he's coming back. Not at least I've heard of. So,
yeah.
No, I probably wouldn't be sold on him to be a potential person to be in LA right now.
Yeah, neither would I. Obviously, I would love for him to be, and I would love, Chris Long to be in a Rams uniform. Maybe he comes back to play for one season and then retires. But yeah, I don't think it's that likely.
Right, and I think it's also. I mean, he was never really an LA Ram, so I'm not sure if he would also feel right about that. But I actually, at the same time, he's probably all about the Rams organization too. I know he's got charity still within the city of St. Louis. He still gives back to the city. I mean, he really has like no real place in LA, I guess. But I guess since with how the Rams have started to embrace their players, and especially with the positive culture that McVay has instilled, I think that's also a type of environment Chris Long would excel in. But I also think he just has no desire to come here anyway. So,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and also, I mean, the scheme fit because back when he played, it was a 4-3 scheme, and that's really what I see with somebody like that. I don't at this point see him wanting to be a stand-up guy. Especially in this scheme, I don't see the fit. I think it'd be similar to Connor Barwin, where you get some flashes here and there. It's nice to have a veteran presence, and you want to like him, but he just doesn't fit, and it would be a disaster, honestly. I wouldn't say Chris Long would be a disaster because I think he is better than Connor Barwin, but Connor Barwin was a disaster, and no one wanted to say it because the Rams were riding high, 11-5 and all that, and then it really took that loss to the Falcons to really let people open up their eyes and realize, look, this is not a finished team, and just like last year, not a finished team. I mean, you were on borrowed time, with guys like, obviously you don't have to pay Jared Goff. Now that they lost the Super Bowl, you're not extending Goff. You're going to have him earn it. And, you have, Sue hitting free agency. And, a lot of these guys signed a one-year deal. So, we don't know what the true Sean McVay Rams team looks like because we haven't really, seen what, a defense that's fully committed. I mean, they're not committed to Sue. And if they are, I mean, it's going to take them this offseason to show that because – I got news for you. Free agency is right around the corner, and if they want to bring back Sue, I don't know if they want him to go into free agency, test that market, and then have to be bidding against themselves.
I am absolutely on board with you on that one. Yeah, that's definitely a topic of discussion as well, and that makes me wonder if they're going to also commit to a safety within the free agency long term, if they're wanting to build onto that finished Sean McVay product almost. I mean, there's a couple of guys out there, like, was it Landon Collins is on there high, Clinton Dix, Tyrann Mathieu, even though he's kind of like regressed every year he's been in the NFL. And who's the big name I'm missing right now? It's on the top of my head. It's on the tip of my tongue. I cannot remember who it was.
Was it
Earl Thomas? Earl Thomas. That's who I completely forgot about him, but I can't see him leaving. Well, I could see him leaving Seattle for LA, maybe. You never know. But that's also a very big financial commitment to give to someone like that. So, do you guys want to see LaMarcus Joyner walk?
Absolutely, 100%.
Sorry, see what?
LaMarcus Joyner walk.
Oh, I don't know if I would say want is the word for me. I get nostalgic about him, but yeah, I think he's probably moving on.
Yeah, I'm with you guys.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Joyner was a top 5 safety in 2017. I have forgotten about that, but you've already given him $11 million for 1 year as the franchise tag. I mean, that is what LaMarcus Joyner is going to expect. Players don't know, they don't look at it like I had a bad year. He'll be like, oh, I was 10th in the league in, snaps per, reception, or I started on a Super Bowl team. That is going to be, that's what's going to come up in negotiations, not that my Pro Football Focus grade was lower than, you know what I mean? So that's why,
right.
Negotiating with players like that is almost damn near impossible because you already gave him that money. And now he's going to want exactly that, and maybe even then some. And now you're talking about Joyner wanting $12 million. Now, I guess the drawback of that, and the good thing about the NFL draft, and it happened last year, is it kind of when you have a really deep position in the NFL draft, it kind of dumbs down the market and free agency. And I think, you're looking at a potential dumbing down of the safety market in this, free agency. I mean, really the only one that I would pay significant money, maybe Clinton Dix, but I think the only one would really be Adrian Amos.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, and I don't know how he is going to play without Vic Fangio, because that's the really interesting thing. They let Fangio become the head coach of the Broncos, and now they have a new coordinator over there in Chuck Pagano, who, I mean, he's former great defense coordinator for the Ravens, and obviously he coached in the NFL. But I look at that and I'm like, how good are those guys? I mean, I think Eddie Jackson's phenomenal, but aside from that, was Amos, a product of that system? I mean, you don't know until you pay him and you find out. So, I think that you definitely have to worry about something like that. And of course, Landon Collins struggling as soon as they switched over to, James Betcher, the new defense coordinator for the Giants. As soon as they switched over to his 3-4 defense, he had his worst year in a contract season. I don't know if you want to do that and put him in a 3-4 for the Rams. So, there are definitely things to keep in mind when going out and paying, and that's why, I always lean draft, because, I look, you have a first-round pick this year, you can use that for ammunition, either trade up or you could trade down. So you can get your guy either way, and I just look at, you're getting 4 or 5 years out of this player, and, obviously with what you have, the coaching staff you have, you should be confident that whoever you get, you can develop into just as good of a player, if not better, than the player you're going to sign in free agency.
I'm with you on that. As far as, like you just said that you would potentially, maybe if you were to find a way to trade up, what would you want to trade up for potentially? Because that's also been a topic I have not heard many people talk about, as far as like the Rams moving up from their late first round spot. I mean, was the essential player that you would go after if you were to go up?
Yeah, it would certainly have to be for somebody we love. I mean, I feel like, obviously, I don't want to, speak for Alexis, but I know you love Mack Wilson. So if Mack Wilson were there at 28, maybe you trade up 3 spots to grab him if that's your guy. Like for me, I would be interested in the best player available, but if I see somebody who's going to grade out, and I just finished my evaluation of him, he's going to be in the top 5 at least in this draft, in TJ Hawkinson. If he were to fall because he's a tight end and because he shared time with another tight end that's also going to be a first-round pick in Noah Fant, I'd be really interested. If he falls to like the 20s, the Packers are absolutely picking him with their second pick if he's there. I would jump the Packers and grab TJ Hawkinson. I just think you're talking about somebody that absolutely transforms this offense. If you think Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee are really good, I mean, TJ Hawkinson can come in, and I think day one, out of all the film I've watched of him, I think day one he could be a top 5 tight end. I think we're talking about that level of talent, and, I think teams might want, just because this defensive class is so depth-filled, and obviously you have your teams desperate for a quarterback, I could see a player like that falling. And obviously, I don't believe they should, but if that were to be the case, I'd absolutely trade up and snag Hawkinson before I have to go face him in Green Bay and have Aaron Rodgers throw to him. So that's who I would trade up for.
Gotcha. Yeah, I am not somebody who thinks we should trade up at all unless it's somebody, like, I think it really depends for me. Like, if Whitworth retires, then I think round 1 we have to go his successor. Like, that's just kind of my my feeling for it, because and also it depends if we get Dante Fowler back. If we get Dante Fowler back, that's our edge guy. If we don't get Dante back, then I would like us to take an edge guy round 1. And there's only a few guys that I could see us trading up for. And all my mocks I've done with 31 for the Rams, I've either taken Montez Sweat or like Mack Wilson. And those are guys who I think could potentially be there. So I'm not entirely sure we'd even have to trade up for those guys.
Yeah, that's what I figured as well, because it's really tough to be able to gauge who actually is a lock to be a person you would try to trade up for in that situation. That's why I was kind of curious of when that was brought up, because for me, I just feel like we need to trade back, because I still think there's, as crazy as it is and how low we are at the top, we just need to build our depth. And I feel like if we get as many draft picks as possible, I think it'd be better off that way. Because McVay's has actually drafted pretty well in the time he's been there. I mean, we've had some misses here and there, but I think especially the first draft, he did relatively well with who we ended up getting. So I trust his judgment as far as finding a really good second or third round picks, or he's been doing really well in the fourth and fifth round as well. So we can always look for the most talented player at a perfect spot. But I just really think with the limited amount of draft picks we have right now, I think we really need to go back. That's just me personally, though.
It makes sense.
Well, I agree. I mean, that's kind of what I've been leaning towards, is getting rid of 31 for a high second rounder and also a fourth rounder has kind of been my thought process. But, who knows? Anything can happen.
Right.
We have definitely learned that. I mean, obviously, I always bring this up, but I mean, Laramie Tunsil, did anyone expect that whole draft day fiasco? So, any of these guys, any of these guys could fall into the Rams' lap, and I wouldn't be surprised if, I'd be a little surprised, when the whole, process plays out, the whole draft process plays out, and Hockenson does fall that far. But if we're talking right now, I think he definitely could. Now, he has a chance to blow up the combine. He also has a chance to run really slow and have teams sour on him and not, stand by what they saw on tape. And that happens a lot with a lot of these prospects. That's why a lot of these guys fall. I mean, I remember, Jarvis Landry was pretty obvious that he was going to be, legitimate NFL receiver, and he hurt himself or slipped or something when he was running the 40 at the combine, and he fell in the third round. I mean, just phenomenal route runner. I mean, there have been guys like that. I mean, Cooper Kupp didn't run well, and that's why he fell to the third round. So, obviously Keenan Allen's another, but I mean, you just never know. So I think, obviously you got to be open-minded. As a Rams fan, you have to be ready for anything, though, because they've proven that, this free agency could be, a free agency where they just sign their own. This could be a free agency where they go big or go home. Or this could be, all about trading. Just like, last offseason where, they grabbed Sue and that was the icing on the cake. But, they go out and make another trade. And, I mean, you're going to see, from here until, draft time. I mean, you're going to see OBJ. You're going to see, Jalen Ramsey. You're going to see all those players being connected to the Rams, and that's what happens. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it, but that's what happens when, they leaked the information last year that they actually tried to make a trade for Khalil Mack. So now they're going to be connected to everybody. Didn't you notice, the Chargers, no one's talking about them. It's all Rams are interested in OBJ, Rams are interested in Von Miller, and these aren't even, real rumors or anything. This is just stuff being thrown out there by analysts and it's all speculation. But the Chargers aren't mentioned, the Raiders aren't mentioned, the 49ers have only been mentioned about one player, Antonio Brown. So I think that's really where it comes from. It originates when they went out and they leaked the information that they were going to try to acquire Khalil Mack.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's just a focal point because the Rams right now are actually the sexy pick as far as the tally teams goes. Because the Chargers are a great team. I mean, they're well coached. Philip Rivers is for me. Philip Rivers is actually one of my favorite quarterbacks or favorite players outside of Rams players. Even with his playoff history, I'm a big fan of his, and he's a great leader and all that. So, but it is kind of crazy that with Anthony Lynn being a really good play caller and what they've got going on, they were still a really good team this year, but it's still, boy wonders, Rams are the ones to watch, and they seem to be the ones who make the very bold moves or the, blockbuster moves. It's kind of crazy how that's all worked out.
Right. Yeah, it certainly is interesting, and it's going to become even more interesting, as time goes on, the closer we get to the draft. And something I'm really excited about is to watch the combine because, Jake kind of touched on it. Players' performances at the combine definitely can influence their draft stock. So afterwards, we could be saying something completely different than what we're saying now, and we can want totally different people and all of that. But yeah, it's certainly interesting. I think the Rams are a team that obviously a lot of eyes are on them. A lot of people want to know what they're going to do, and it's just one of those things that we just got to wait and see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up. Do you have any last parting thoughts for us, Horns Up?
Yes, absolutely. Mainly it's just if anyone's listening to this, any of my followers that are listening to us, clearly they're your followers now. But I just want to thank all the followers who have supported me, especially the ones who support me from the very get-go. My friend from St. Louis, Jerry Van Fleet, he calls himself Ram Fleet, was one of the biggest ones who got me jump-started into this. Very encouraging. He's hilarious at the same time. And there's a lot of great Rams accounts also out there to be followed. I've never been one of those accounts to be competitive with each other because we're all rooting for the same team. So I encourage you not just to follow the Downtown Rams, but also follow pages like Rams Today, the Rams Report, Rams Unlimited, Turf Shop. That was a Turf Show times Mike. That's the full name. I always botch that, but there are a lot of great Rams fans out there who are very knowledgeable and they're very diehard. So I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate you too. And just thanks just for everything, and good luck to all of you guys. I will be following from afar, and go Rams.
Yeah, of course. And we will be supporting you too over here, and, hopefully trying to continue your legacy the best we can and to keep the page alive and just be a place for Rams fans to come together and discuss and debate and get some cool graphics. But we wish you all the best of luck at your new job in Tampa Bay. I'm sure it's going to be just an incredible experience. And I know it's something that, you've been wanting to do for a long time. And, you're basically getting to work in the NFL, which is something you've always wanted. So we congratulate you on that. We wish you the best of luck. And, we'll keep in touch and hope that everything's going well for you.
Appreciate it. I really appreciate that. And good luck to you both. I know you guys will do a good job.
Hey, man, we appreciate that as well. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're busy and you just moved in, and, it's a new chapter in your life. So, once again, kind of echoing what she said, I wish you the best of luck. And, thanks again for giving us the opportunity. And, we're going to keep grinding and make sure, your follower, we're going to earn your followers and, we'll keep it going for you.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. You take care.
All right. You too.
Yep. Have a good one.